Showtime.
There it is. There it is.
That's right. Why are we a little bit late? Mark has called it. Must be waiting on Art. We are, and now you're waiting on Art too, because he'll be here, and Billy Tucci will be here too. But he had one of his meetings, so he'll get here around 8:00. But this is the Professionals, a rotating show going from channel to channel. As you can see tonight, it is on my channel, and we're going to have fun. We're talking, as you saw, the title, will today's comic art ever match the Pricy past? So we're going to be talking about original art, and was there a boom period? And will today's artists that still work traditionally in 20 years be able to cash in if they hold on to their art? Another thing too is, of course, we have our what happened today in comics, which we'll go over. But until Art hopefully gets here soon, there he is. You heard it. Your back was burning as we were talking about your Art.
What were you saying?
Nice things.
I said Art's eating dinner. You know Art's eating dinner.
Oh my God, put that hat back on. Jeez.
No, what the hell's going on?
My audience is dipping because you took your hat off.
Like a Brillo pad, that hair.
You know, Art, if you would just go this route, you'd never have a problem again with your hair.
I don't have a problem. I love it. Look at this.
No, I love it too. I want some.
You know, Art, I can't wait to see you in person so I can run my hand through your hair.
That is the gayest thing I think I've ever heard. We are live, by the way, right?
Yeah, we are. And it's going to happen.
Hello, everyone.
That's right. And Billy's going to be late, like I said. So
as usual.
As usual.
Civics Awards are handed out every month, every Thursday.
I thought he was handing out food at a food bank because, you know, Billy's got a heart of gold. Creative Faye, hello. Past Master Dan, Robert the Bruce, Randy Howell, congrats on passing 4K. Thank you so much. Let's see. Randy Robert Marcus in the house. He had a great time. Saw Marcus over the weekend at the con. Past Master Dan. Larry Lisk, hello. What's this say? Does Aaron's jacket keep him warm as his team struggles? Oh, well, it's
always next year, baby. You just wait till next year.
Hey, I know that. I say that with the Cowboys every year.
Yeah, that's what we all say, right? Just wait till next year.
Like, well, not Graham. Graham's got the Bills, but
they still didn't win at all. They still didn't win at all.
That's true.
No. It's always next year.
Wait till next year.
Something to look forward to.
Can't say that about the Lions. The Lions are pretty much. Oh, look at that! Got his Kor-Drath today. Well, that's awesome. Enjoy. Nice. Yeah, the Lions, man. Woof. I think next year they're going to suck. So, so there you go. So, guys, exciting news this day in comic history, and I even have a visual too. So let me do this. This day in comic history, before I hit the share button, the Crime Master debuted in Amazing Spider-Man number 26, of course, published by Marvel Comics. This villain, created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, was a mass criminal mastermind who became a significant foe for Spider-Man during the Silver Age of comics. You know, it must have been just the Silver Age, because I got to be honest, did he ever really do anything in the 70s or 80s? I don't even know this cat. Aaron.
No, he dies.
He later joined.
Oh, he dies?
No. He joined the Watchmen, remember?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah. Changed his name to Rorschach. Yeah.
He was. He worked. Spoiler alert. He worked at the Daily Bugle. He was a reporter of. What was his name? Fred? No.
Robbie Robertson? I don't know.
No. Can't remember the character's name.
His real name.
He was kind of a Weasley-looking guy.
Yeah. That's right.
He was a reporter, and he ended up being, the.
It just goes to show you, Jay Jonah is not a good judge of character.
No. This also features a nice little crossover with the Green Goblin. They were, after he premiered in Amazing 14, man, they milked him. He was very popular. He showed up about every 3 issues.
Yeah.
Who drew this cover?
Ditko.
That composition's weird, man. The Goblin looks like an afterthought.
Yeah.
He's kind of squished in there.
Well, you know, it'd have been nice if they had moved him over to the other side and slid that crime master thing to the left.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, remember when you were a kid and you
maybe angled him too, so he's not so straight up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when you were a kid and you would draw and you'd run out of space, so the character would get shorter and shorter. So you can get them all in the composition.
You know what I do like about this cover is the two perspectives. That you have your horizon line back there, and the building they're on goes back to one, and the rest of the city goes back to another.
Yeah, it's not even the same vanishing point. But
which could be because in the city sometimes buildings are on different angles and stuff like that, so that would be a different vanishing point, and I think it makes it more interesting that way.
Yeah, what is good about it is it sets it apart from the rest of the composition, so it's pretty smart. Except for that damn goblin, everything's genius.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I love the wrinkles on the coat and the pants and everything.
Yeah, that's a really nice figure with some movement. And Spider-Man's figure actually is pretty good too. I like the movement in Spider-Man's figure.
Yeah, the musculature is nice and organic looking too.
Yeah,
it is really the Green Goblin. I mean, I agree with Art. That thing he just looks jammed up in there. Yeah. Like and honestly, if you take him out, it all works. Like I like it better without him there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that would have been a surprise.
I'll bet you if you looked at the original, that's a paste up.
Hey, you know what? Send it to me in the green room, and I'll do some Photoshop work on it. I'll make this thing happen.
That's right. Art will take care of it. He'll make it work. Now you notice they gave Stan credit for creating this, Stan, and then Ditko. And you know good and well that Ditko probably just came up with this character, and Stan's like, "Oh, okay."
Well, by this point, Ditko was plotting these stories.
Right.
Well, what character?
Frederick Foswell. That's it, Marcus. I knew it was Fred something.
Oh, there it is.
Frederick Foswell was the big. Oh, he's the big man, not the crime master.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, but isn't Ditko created the character that gave birth to Rorschach? What was that character? The Question.
Rorschach. Wait, what do you mean?
Yeah, the Question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the Question. Yeah.
Yeah. So then if you can go, okay, Ditko created the Question, then you automatically go, he created the crime master. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's right out of his
this evolution of exactly.
Did
screw you, Stan.
So wait, Graham, you said was it Graham or I can't remember. He died. How long after his first debut here did he die?
I was confusing him with the big man who was Frederick Foswell, and he does die. So I'm not certain about the crime master.
They were the enforcers, right? That was the group, the three. There was the big muscular guy. There was the Weasley guy and the guy with the whip, and then
the Ox, Montana.
Yeah, and then the Frederick Fosworth, big man.
Yeah, no, he wasn't part of that.
Are you sure?
He not part of the group that would go out and fight Spider-Man. He was a guy. He was one of these guys pulling the strings behind the scene.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I read these, man.
Yeah, I know.
I hear you.
Look at your memory, though, Graham. You're a Fantastic Four guy, and here you are pulling out Spider-Man facts. I'm a Spider-Man guy, and I couldn't remember.
Yeah, early Spider-Man stuff. I collected a lot of those early Spideys too.
Yeah, I had a nice fine copy of this issue, by the way. Just saying.
It's fine.
It wasn't slabbed. It wasn't slabbed. I got it when I was
back before you got slab stuff.
There was
I got that big Tashin thing. Let's see.
Oh,
Hey,
you do.
Didn't you say you sold your Spider-Man collection, Aaron?
I did, yeah.
Now, Graham, is that the only Tashin book you have?
Yeah.
Because they did X-Men. I think they did Avengers. So the thing is, they did Silver Surfer, which I was thinking about getting, and then the colorist Jose Villaraba, I think, he was posting pictures of the interior of it, and then the original comics online, and the reproduction in that one's awful.
In the Surfer one?
The Tashin Surfer one, yeah.
I mean, those are newer comics. You'd think they'd have, good copies to be able to, scan like this,
No. Well, the one that you're holding, every comic in there was scanned from actually Shelton Drum's originals.
Okay.
Spider-Man's, the Heroes guy that I'm friends with down here. Yeah, every one. I don't know where they got the Surfer stuff.
I've got.
By the way, do they expect people to really read those books like you got there, Graham? I mean,
they are hard to read, man.
Yeah,
they're so freaking heavy.
Well, you got to put them on a coffee table to read them. That's the whole thing. Right? They're a coffee table book.
What you need is a rack.
You know those racks,
like that on a table.
Yeah, that holds the book. Yeah. Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I've got the Frazetta one, and then I've got the EC one, the EC Comics one.
Yeah, but those are artist editions, right?
No. They're Taschen books that. The EC one is like just like the story, the history of EC Comics and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff reproduced in them, but they're not like the Spider-Man collection where it's just all the issues. It's just it has some pages and covers, but it's the history of it. And the Frazetta one is a Frazetta art book, obviously.
How many? What issues does that book cover, Graham?
I'm sorry.
What issues does that book cover? 1 through what?
Well, it has the first annual too in it. Let's see.
See, guys, this is how Graham gets buff. He doesn't go to the gym. He lifts that freaking book.
10 commandments.
That's right.
15. Yeah, 15.
15 commandments. All right, so let's see what the last
thing is. Taschen does have some of these in smaller format. They're not all like these mega huge ones. They have smaller ones too.
Right.
Looks like it goes to 18, and then it has the annual. Yeah, Spider-Man annual #1.
Oh, that's cool.
That great one with the Sinister Six.
Yeah, yes, classic. That has some great splash pages in it.
It's some of Ditko's best work.
Yep. I agree.
How many years did Ditko do this? Because this issue is 26, so that's going into the 3rd year.
38.
Right?
38 was his last issue.
Yeah.
Wow.
So 3 years, roughly.
Yeah,
a little more.
A little bit more than 3 years. Yeah.
Because it was Spider-Man was always monthly, right? When it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Daredevil was bi-monthly, but
yeah.
Right.
Spider-Man
even has the scanned original art from Amazing Fantasy 15.
Oh, sweet.
That's cool.
That was donated anonymously to the Smithsonian, I think.
Well, the reason for the season for tonight, talking about original art.
Wait a minute. We can't do it yet. You got to share this first.
All right.
This goes along with what we were just talking about.
All right. As soon as I see it.
All I got to do is like hit the right button and we should be good.
Hit the left.
There you go. Yeah. I got it.
All right. Hold on. Oh yeah. I know this. Yeah.
Why is that pink?
Why is it what?
Why is it pink? Is you guys showing pink?
No.
Mine is. That's weird. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. The Enforcers and the big man. There he is.
Yeah. Oh, Fancy Dan. That was the guy. The little guy was Fancy Dan, Montana, and the Ox.
Nice.
Fancy Dan.
Yeah,
What is this Ditko Kickstarter Marcus is talking about?
I don't know.
Well, post the link, Marcus. You're a wrench. Do your job, man. Well, that's cool. Yeah. Henry says you need new glasses, Aaron, or just
on my screen. It's like the colors have separated. It's weird.
You need a new computer. Get it before the tariffs.
That's right.
I'll make my own right here.
There you go.
There is a Ditko. What does it say? Mr. A by Robinson Snyder and Steve Ditko.
Yeah, Mr. A. Robin Snyder published Mr. A. and those Ditko fanzines for years.
Maybe that's it.
I see that's on Kickstarter, and there's not much on it. There's only one piece of artwork, and they got 277 or 272 backers and a pledge of 6,411. That was 2019, though. There's got to be a newer one.
That's not a lot of Ditko fans out there. There's only 220 backers.
Okay, here's another one. Regards, Ditko. An exploration into the mind of Steve Ditko. And this was 2019. These are all older. Yeah.
Huh.
I'll keep looking. But those are the first two that pop up in the search.
Well, you got me.
Then
But
there's the Bat by Snyder and Ditko.
The Bat?
The Bat, yeah.
Oh, I wonder if it's Mary Robert Reinhardt's version of the Bat.
The Snyder. So is Snyder the writer?
He was a
look at this. What the F? Aaron just flipped me off, rubbing his eye. Nice, Aaron. Nice.
Wow.
Always on my channel.
I've always got hidden messages for Andino Palazzo.
I knew it. All right. So anyhow, the reason for the season for tonight, like the title, will today's comic art ever match the Pricy past? I thought of it because I think it was last week or the week before. I'm doing my scrolling through Facebook, and inker Joe Rubenstein posted, let me show it, posted this art that he inked for the Daredevil Index wraparound cover. And at the time, it was, the auction's over now, so I'll tell you what it sold for. But at the time, a week and a half ago or whatever, it was at, I guess, 50 grand. And, you know, he was just saying like, oh, it's on Indiegogo, Marcus says. He was just saying that like, man, I bet Frank only sold it for a couple hundred, you know, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And another comic artist commented saying, I mean, it's not a big deal. Riley Brown, who's a more current artist. I think Riley, when we were talking at a con, said he started like in maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, something like that. And he was just saying, oh man, I should hold on to more of my artwork instead of just letting it go. Cause you know, you never know. And I think he was a little tongue in cheek, but I was thinking about it, and I was just kind of thinking like, will art from, you know, the past 20 years by current artists that still work, original, obviously not digital, command numbers like this, you know, 30, 40 years from now? Now certain artists, obviously like Sean Murphy, you know, that have big names are already selling stuff really at good numbers. But it just seemed to me that there was a period of time in the 80s, 70s where, you know, pick a Marvel 2-in-1 page by Ron Wilson, and it could command not like 50 grand, but it could be in maybe the thousands or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And will we see it again? Now, just to let you guys know, actually, let's do a little trivia here. Graham, what do you think this sold for?
75.
Aaron?
100.
Art?
80.
80 grand?
Yeah.
180 grand.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's right.
It does have Black Goliath on it. So
yeah.
Hey,
I
do you
mean,
get that things that sold for a good price, like say you sold the original artwork for a higher price, that would retain more value over time than the other? Because if you bought that thing, like let's just say you bought this thing at 100K, you're not going to let it go for anything less than 100K, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an investment.
Mm-hmm.
So that would just be bad business. So if you always sold your work at a higher price, do you think it will always retain a higher price through time?
No.
No.
The market will determine it. When you buy it, you're determining that it's worth $180,000. Is it worth that? I wouldn't pay 180. So
well, everything's like that. You know, it's all based on individual taste. But
sure.
if you had something that was expensive, you would less likely sell it for less. So I would argue it would hold its value. Like if you had a house, you know, and it appreciates, why would you sell it for less than the appreciation? Hold on.
Well, it's the same thing though. You might not want to sell it for less than the appreciation, but it's the market. You don't have a choice.
To determine that it isn't worth that.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
here's the thing, the way to look at it, I think, if you'd go and buy, like if this was, let's say Frank Miller was selling this piece today, he hung on to it and he says, I want $180,000 for it. And someone comes along and says, okay, I'm going to pay you $180 for that because I want it. Right. That's very different than this going up for auction and a bunch of people bidding on it and bidding it up to 180.
Right.
That's a more sure way of saying, okay, that's what the market is for this piece of artwork. Whereas someone might have paid,
if you paid 180 for this, would you sell it for anything less?
No, absolutely.
No, but
I think for me the answer is I wouldn't want to, but if I was in a position where I needed money and I had to sell stuff and somebody was like, dude, and I put it out there and the best offer I could get was like 125, then it's going for 125 if I need the money.
Well,
Well, I mean, you could say that about anything though, but what I'm trying to say is that it's more likely that a page that is more expensive will hold its value over time. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, right.
It still depends on the customer or whoever's buying the artwork. It could go up and down just like stocks or a house price, but it's more like if you have $1 million house, it's most likely going to stay around that versus a house that's 200,000. You know what I mean? It'll stay in that range. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like if you bought the page for more, it's more likely, I think, to hold its value over time.
Well, I think it also enters, I mean, people that spend this much money on stuff like this, they're aware of what's being sold and what isn't, and how much it's going for. So if you pay 180,000 for this, if this guy 10 years from now puts it up on Heritage, or 5 years from now puts it up on Heritage to sell it, everybody's going to be aware of the fact that last time it sold, it was 180. So they're going to go in expecting to pay that or more. And you're probably going to get it. But again, if the market sucks, you might, just like old comics, you might see it sold for 5,000 less, or it sold for 20 grand less. But it's in that ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to vary in price, and it can go down just like stocks, or like a house can be appraised at less, but most likely it'll still stay high. You know what I mean?
It's not going to drop to $600
or $200. You know, it's not. It'll probably never do that. So one of the things is when I was selling artwork, I always tried to remember that. So I always tried to keep the prices relatively high, just because I knew that it would. You know, it's all perception. You know what I mean? If something's perceived as being higher, then it's perceived as being more important. You know, in our society, that's just kind of how it works. So I always thought, you know, that's the way to go. Versus I think
at the time you're talking about though, because I assume you're talking about the stuff you were doing in the X office and whatnot in the 90s, right?
Well, even before that, you know, I was like, I can't give this stuff away. And if I did, I always let people know that you're getting a deal. You're like, this isn't the price or whatever.
But do you think, because this, I don't know, I don't think this is signed, and I know it's early 80s. Yeah, it doesn't have a date. So I don't know, maybe it's 83. I honestly can't remember the exact year the book came out. You know,
during prime Frank Miller Daredevil days.
Right. But what I was going to say is, you know, Frank sold this, and I don't know if Joe was just making a number up, but let's say Joe's right, and he knows Frank sold it for like $200. You know, $200 back then for something like this, if he sold it, let's say like he got it back and he's like, time to sell it, didn't even sit on it. You know, $200 wasn't bad.
Yeah, and don't forget, it's not a published Marvel comic cover.
Right.
It's not a story page, it's not a cover. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it is a cover though, right? But it's just not, Marvel didn't publish it.
Correct.
It was a cover for whatever that index was.
Whoever published those indexes. Steranko did one for the FF.
Yeah.
Oh, I never saw that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, and the other thing I think that Andy's getting, the broader question is, now we all saw this probably, I don't know, started happening maybe 15, 20 years ago. Maybe not that long ago, but there was a period of time where, you know, suddenly, like, you could go and buy a page from a 1970s book, right? Provided it wasn't like, you know, a Wrightson or a Barry Smith or a Neil Adams, but just, you know, the average comic artist from that period of time, right? And you could get a pretty good deal on it. But then suddenly people are like, this is really old. And suddenly it elevated the entire decade of art. So even crappy 70s art was considered classic comic art and was getting bigger numbers. You know, like you said, like a Ron Wilson page that he might have sold for $50 now is suddenly selling for $3,500, you know,
Right.
just because it's from that era.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I got a good example. I've got a Weird World page up there from Marvel Premiere number 38, which was 1978. Now, granted, it was Plug, inked by Nino, but it was the elves, you know, that Elf Quest kind of thing they were doing. So it wasn't like super popular or anything. But even when I grabbed that, and this was pre-COVID, I paid $1,000 for it. It's just a panel page. I'll bet now, if I put that up for auction, I bet that would go at like, could be up like $3,000 or more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just because it's 1978 and it's, you know, 50 years, almost 50 years old. And you even see that later in the like later 80s stuff. Like I saw that with Paul Ryan's work, right? Sadly, after he passed away, but it was like, you know, he was selling, because he had Fantastic Four pages, so he was getting a decent amount of money when he was selling them in the late 80s, early 90s. But when we got into the 2020s or close to that, it was like suddenly those things are 30, 35 years old. And it was like suddenly that late 80s artwork, and especially if it was a character that people liked, you know, like the FF or Spider-Man, it didn't really matter. And I don't mean this, you know, against Paul or anything like that, but I'm just saying those systematically, all that kind of stuff was suddenly viewed as classic art, and the prices went up on them.
Yeah, and
Aaron, by the way, Andino says an Aaron Lepresti piece goes for $70.
Well, you know, what are you going to do?
Right. And then Marcus told me this story. He bought the cover of Iron Man 148 from Bob Layton in 1981 for $45.
Oh my God.
Is that the Demon in a Bottle cover?
No, it's 148. Is that's not the I want to say it's the stealth armor where it's the all black armor, but I don't know. He'll explain it, I'm sure.
Well, I have a heartbreaker if you want to share.
Yeah, make me cry.
All right, hold on. Oh, yeah. God, stupid. I got to remove mine.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, it's weird the way StreamYard works now.
You know, it was a lot easier before.
Okay, that first page right there, I sold that for $2,000. It was probably more like $1,900. Now it's worth
for $99,000.
Yeah, it's worth almost $100K.
Oh. Wow!
All those pages in there I worked on, by the way. So that's enough to buy a mansion.
I know. Doesn't that make you sick? It's like, I should have hung on to it. But I mean, usually we sold that stuff because we needed the money at the time. That was part of our income.
Right. But it was like $2,000 at the time was really.
That's what I'm saying with like the 200 for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because you figure 200 for this. I mean, heck, Marcus just said it. He bought an Iron Man cover for $45.
Yeah.
That was like, you know, Frank Miller's different than Bob Layton, but it was a actual Marvel cover from a popular series.
Can we all agree that this is once again a product of Image Comics? That explosion right there caused not only the comic market to change, but also the original art market to change. I really think it did, because you could get you could have got Kirby artwork, classic Kirby artwork, like in the late 80s, early 90s for a song. Right. And then suddenly when McFarlane and all these guys started blowing up and they were getting huge money for their pages, it eventually just people started going, why am I paying $300,000 for a Spider-Man page from McFarlane when I should be paying that for a Kirby Fantastic Four page or something? And suddenly everything just blew up.
That's how, like, I collected animation cells. And so when I started, you could get a deal. You know, you could get original pencils for a steal, like next to nothing. Yep. And then the actual screen used stuff was relatively cost effective. And then after it became a collectible thing, and then Disney started putting the stores, you know, Warner Brothers started putting the stores and things, the prices went up probably about $500 to $1,000 per piece. And it's crazy how, well, I guess it's just like comics, right? It's like rarity, what is it? Rarity, demand, and
condition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so this is the cover Marcus bought for $45. Not bad.
You got a deal. You got a deal, brother.
Yeah, not bad. Well, the funny thing is talking about the different stores and stuff. You were saying, I remember going into a Warner Brothers store. I can't remember how long ago they closed. Like it's got to be over 15 years ago. But anyhow, early 2000s. And I remember seeing a Dan Jurgens, Superman. I think it was a 2-page spread. And, had the gorgeous frame around it because it's in a Warner Brothers store, right? So it had the double matting, big fat frame, and it was like $7,000 or something like that. And, knowing the business and stuff, I'm like, oh my God. But, people that don't know anything walk in and go, oh my God, that's what original art goes for, because they don't know. And somebody probably bought it.
Yeah.
And
so
that's the loan in the framing.
What's that? Hello, Steph. Thank you for the $2.
Yeah.
Well, Art brought up a good point, and I think this is really good because perception is everything. And right. I mean, I remember at San Diego when I finally got a booth, right? And one of the reasons I got a booth and got out of Artist Alley was because I wanted to be perceived as being more important than I was. Right. And it helped. I was able to sell artwork in my booth that I never would have sold in Artist Alley in terms of like stuff that hadn't been published, like, Frazetta type drawings and things like that. Right. And also when you start demanding higher money for your artwork, right, you go out there and say, this covers $3,000. And you know, at first, unless it's like a Spider-Man cover or an X-Men or something like that, that has that really sort of, I got to have it kind of thing. People are going to go, I'm not paying that for that. And so you kind of have to suck it up for a while. But then after a while, you can establish what the value of your artwork is. And then people get used to paying it, or the right crowd gets used to paying it. Then suddenly that's what what the market value on it is.
And if you don't flood the market, then, because then, only the inkers release some of these pages, if you've held on to them. And I did that for years. I held on to, like my Vengeance and Bane pages, and only recently sold some of those at Heritage. If you want to share my screen, Andy. This page right here, I wanted to get some money, help pay off some student loans for the kids. I sold that page for $90,000, 93 grand.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you got $1,000 for the frame alone.
No, that didn't frame.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations. I have 2 Whilce Portacio pages left. I don't have any Jim Lee and I don't have any Art Adams, but man, if I did, holy shit balls.
Well, look at it. Look, we're talking about, guys like selling that cover for $45. I know for a fact that Graham, you may be familiar with it. I don't know if you other guys are, but Wrightson back in about 1974, he did this huge book called Color the Creature. It was a coloring book. There are these great black and white illustrations in it, right? That he did. He was selling those at cons. Now, granted, this is, 1975. So he was selling it for a couple $100, and then he would hand color it for another $100. So he would do it for like $300, which back in that time, that was probably a lot of money, right? That's probably a cute, about $1,500 to today's dollars, maybe something like that. But those things now, just the black and white, are over $100,000 a piece. And then if they're hand colored by Wrightson, it's freaking unbelievable. But who has the foresight, the knowledge, to sit there and go, oh yeah, in 40 years, baby, this.
Very often.
What I started to say, and when we were having our private talk at one point, was that these things are cyclical because 70s stuff is really hot now, and 80s stuff, because the people that grew up reading those comics are now establishing their careers. They've got extra money to spend. Maybe some of their kids have moved on, and they've done well, and so they're investing it in the art market. You're starting to see artwork from the 60s and certainly the 50s. The prices are going down. There's not a lot of interest in that stuff anymore. Even Neil Adams stuff. some of that stuff from the 60s is dropping in price. And I suspect, in 2000s, maybe it'll stop. Maybe that'll stop somewhat because the artwork isn't as pure anymore. There's blue lines. There's no hand lettering on it, and people might not. The artwork might not have the same appeal. And then, as you said, Andy, a lot of it is digital. But at some point, it's going to come where the market's going to cool off for the era in which we lived in, in which we worked in.
Yeah. It's a shame, but it was interesting, when you start selling your artwork and you realize like certain collectors are looking for certain things, and it's not always the obvious things, right?
Right.
So like I would have people ask like, do you have this page? I go, well, that's a dialogue page, the Talking Heads page. It's like, yeah, I love this bit of dialogue. Are the balloons still on it? And you go, yes. And they go, oh, I would love it. You know what I mean? Like there are people that for whatever reason, the dialogue or whatever captures a moment in their life and they just want that page. And so there are a lot of different reasons people collect. Some people just collect characters.
Yeah.
Like they want certain characters and stuff like that. So it's really interesting, the collector mentality and what they're looking for and what they're not looking for. You can always tell when you guys get contacted, to sell work, when somebody's really trying to talk you down, you almost always know that they're dealers, right? They're like, well, what if I throw this other page and you give me maybe $200 off? It's like, no.
Yeah.
I had this guy badger me for 2 years for this Vengeance of Bane page, and I told him I wanted 50 grand for it. And he said, how about 25? How about 25? 8 months later, I can raise 30. I can raise 30, and this is a grail. This is a holy grail for me. I got to have this page. I said, no. He finally got to the point where he would pay $45,000 for it. And I said, okay, fine. It's a grail. I'm never going to sell it. Fucking 1 year, I think 1 year later, it was up in the in the Heritage catalog and sold for like $85,000.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. So you didn't get the 90K, but that's the value of it now.
Yeah, no, I got the 45.
Oh shit! Because I was so like Graham's the man.
Yeah, no.
You
Graham's
held on to it,
he's the idiot.
Yeah, Graham the idiot, we call
Graham's
him.
the idiot. I took the 45. I gave him a $5,000 discount, and then he turns around in a year and sells his Grail piece for. So this guy was a savvy dealer. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah. That they always kind of look for that. That's why I would tell anybody who's selling original artwork from whatever time, even if you're generating it now, you're a newbie, don't ever go down on your prices. Just don't do it, because somebody's going to to hike it up. And I don't know if you guys had this, but there's collectors that will they'll buy the entire book if it's your first issue you ever drew. Like I remember like some collector just like, I'll give you whatever, every page, every sketch, everything that you drew for this issue. And I was like, okay.
Well, you got to be lucky enough to have inked it yourself, I guess, because that's the only way you'd have the whole thing.
Yeah, the early stuff I did. Yeah, I was like,
you know who does stuff like that? Like Legion collectors are crazy like that. I did one issue of Legion of superheroes when I went over to DC because Wonder Woman, they weren't ready for me to take over Wonder Woman yet. So I did one issue of Legion. I had like one guy come up to me, a Legion guy goes, I want the whole issue. So I had to contact Matt Ryan and going, do you want to sell your pages? He's like, yeah, I don't care. So we like put this deal. I don't remember what he gave me for it, but it was like, who buys a whole issue? But I mean, there's guys out there that do that.
No, there's a guy. I wouldn't be surprised if this was the same guy that asked me. Cause like I said, I inked 4 issues or did finishes over Dan Jurgens on 4 issues of Legion. And, Dan and I split full issues because it was 4 of them, and it was a 50-50 split since I did the finishes. So I still have 2 full issues of Legion over Dan in my, back in my closet. And I had one guy ask me if I wanted to sell them. This is right after, and I was like, no, not yet. And then he, I guess he was going to try and ask Dan, but I brought this cover up because as I was looking after that Frank Miller one, so this is from 1980, John Romita Jr., inked by Al Milgrom, and this sold on April 4th. Let's go down the line. Graham Nolan, what did this cover
first,
sell?
can you blow it up?
Sure.
It's kind of small.
Well, I'll say Milgrom looks like he did a lot of work because this doesn't look like Johnny Romita Jr.
No.
You said senior.
Yeah, but it's 1980, so it's still early.
I know, but even still, I don't think he looked like this.
Did you say this is J.R. Jr.?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's inked by Milgrom?
Yep.
Remember, J.R. Jr. used to draw like just Marvel House style until he got that Frank Miller influence, and then went and did his thing that made.
Remember the How to Draw the Marvel Way?
Oh yeah. Remember how short the torsos were and how long the legs were on JR's early stuff?
Yeah. I'm gonna say this is a Hulk cover, so that's something. It's J.R. Jr., but it's also I'm gonna say 120.
Wow.
Well, did it just sell?
Yep. Sold on April 4th.
Okay. I will go with.
I take mine back. I'm gonna go. If it just sold, I'm gonna go 240.
Wow.
What number Hulk is this?
256.
And it's from 1980, you say?
Yes.
Ooh. Gosh, I can't. It's what would I pay?
Okay,
wouldn't say that.
Yeah. 2,000? No. All right, I'll go with. I'm going to keep it low. I'll go 95.
Art.
I'm kind of in the Graham camp. Like, I just can't imagine paying anything more than maybe even 10 grand for this cover. Not that it's a bad cover, it just is kind of like it's just a cover from that time. And if indeed it goes for more than 10 grand, I'll tell you right now, anybody who wants any of my artwork, it's all going up. Tomorrow, when you go back to my site, it's gonna be through the roof. Because I have cable covers that weren't going for 10 grand.
Yeah, I bet you should put one in Heritage Art. I bet it go for a lot more than you think.
Well, I might do that. I'm gonna say 10 grand because that's what if I was in the market, 10 grand.
Well, Art, you're going to need to spend some time tomorrow upping your prices. This bad boy went for $168,000.
I should have stuck with 140. I was close. Or 120.
Okay, what is the historical? Why?
There isn't any. That was my point. Kind of with this whole topic is. It's just early art by John Romita Jr., I guess, that makes it.
It's a Hulk cover from 1980. It's 45 years old, and it's a Hulk cover.
Yeah, because you can't look at this. If you're a J.R. Jr. fan, and, kind of like Grant, there's obviously no shade against J.R. Jr., just saw him over the weekend, in fact. But you can't look at this. I didn't know it was by him.
Yeah.
Even at the small thumbnail, I had to read that it was J.R. Jr. inked by Al Milgrom. And I was like, what? Yeah. So even if you're a J.R. Jr. fan, you must really either really like the Hulk, like the fact, because there are, like you said, Art, there are collectors out there that are like, yeah, it's early work by this artist. So obviously it's not as refined and as good as what they're doing later or now. But I like the fact that it's their early stuff, right? And
this is also very Marvel driven and it's very character driven, right? So I'd be willing to bet that DC covers from the same era would not sell as well or for as much because you've got major character in the Hulk. J.R. Jr.'s name on there doesn't hurt, even though it's not what we consider, the best J.R. Jr. But it's just a classic Marvel cover that happens to have a classic Marvel character on it. And I think that is what's driving the price.
It's definitely a classic Marvel. I mean, this thing is so well done, and it just reeks of Marvel. Like, you would never mistake this for a DC cover.
Right.
I don't know if this is true. I'm going to assume Sequential Treasures know. He says it's the first appearance of Saber. So if it is, that definitely adds to it because it's on the cover.
Yeah, I was going to say she's an X-Men character, isn't she? Or when I worked with that character, she was an X-Men.
Not originally, I don't think. And then Marcus says, and I don't obviously I'll go with Marcus on this because I don't know. He says JR didn't do full pencils until his run on Daredevil. So I mean, maybe I honestly don't know. I know he's only doing breakdowns, I think, on Iron Man because Bob Layton did so much on it.
Yeah, but he was penciling Spider-Man when Jim Mooney was inking him.
That's true. Yeah. And that was before this.
Yeah.
Unless those weren't full pencils either. I just, like I said, I don't know.
If you go to Heritage right now, and I don't know if this was the final price or if it was still up, because I was just there a couple days ago. But you know the Kirby cover, I think it's Thor 179 that has the Wrecker on it where he's got him like crowbar over. It's a great Kirby cover.
Yeah, I can tell you the final price of that.
It was 240,000 last I looked.
Yeah.
Nope.
Inked by Bill Everett.
You're 100,000 off, Aaron. It says here that it sold on April 4th for let me sign in. Maybe it's a different. It said 144, but maybe it's because I'm not signed in. So let me see. No, it says it sold for 144,000 on April 4th.
Oh my gosh, that is. Would you pay more for that JR Jr. cover than you would from that Kirby cover?
No.
Can you pull the Kirby cover up, Andy?
Yeah, got it right there.
Wow.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, look at
Bill Everett inking it too.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love the depth. I mean, those buildings back there are just dead weight, but they are so grayed out that those figures pop.
That is such an awesome cover. Oh my gosh. Now I feel like 100. I mean, I don't have 140 laying around, but Judas Priest, that
second mortgage, Aaron.
What all this other stuff is going for, that seems like a steal.
I would pay if I had it. I would pay that for this cover because that's brilliant. And also still has the original paste up on it.
Yeah. I know.
I'll tell you guys, you got to protect that paste up because it will kind of get brittle and it will crack. And sometimes this stuff will fall off because it's like a paste that they used. And so it doesn't stay on always. So you got to take care of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, you can see the
paste up, so you see the white out.
Yeah.
Either white out on his fingers and stuff, it looks like there. Or is that just that's just reflection.
Look at that.
No, it's white out. But look at this. Hold on. Let me show you something here real quick.
Oh, yeah,
this is. Hand right here. I mean, look at the amount of white out on that hand. It almost looks like it's a cutout, but I'm looking at it. It's not.
Yeah. No, that's a great drawn fist. It's a little oversized for the arm, but I like it. Yeah.
Oh, I love
your Thor.
It's not oversized for Kirby.
Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly. Look at the lettering down there. That's great. The Wrath of the Wrecker.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a paste up, but who cares? It's great.
Oh yeah.
I've got the first page to the first What the story I ever did for Marvel, and they glued the word balloons on, and they're like falling off now. Like Art saying, the glue got brittle and just like fall off, and so I'm like, where's that word balloon? I know it's in one of my flat files someplace, but
yeah, I'm looking at a page of mine that's framed that has pasted word balloons from X-Men thing in the 90s. I know if I take it out of the frame, the balloons will just go.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Right down. I'm just looking at it and I'm like, yeah, those things are going to fall off that if there's no pressure from the glass.
Have you guys worked for editors that do like heavy art correction on your work? And of course, they don't ask you or anything like that. They just do it.
I only had that happen twice.
Yeah.
I only had it happen on that Predator JLA thing. And that was because of, I told you the story about how he never got the character designs approved.
The costumes, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a bunch of stuff on that I
was the editor.
Raspler.
Okay, yeah,
Raspler.
like Mike Carlin was notorious, man. Like he loved the blue pencil because he would just write like notes in blue pencil like all over the artwork, and he would paste like entire like white pieces over things that he didn't like. And so a lot of those Superman pages have a lot of art direction or a lot of I guess corrections or whatever. And that was all editorial. It wasn't like the artists themselves.
That's a frustrated artist as an editor.
And Mike was. I love Mike pieces, but yeah,
I do too. You know, he went to SVA, and
Well, you know, it was tough was Brian Cunningham, and I like Brian a lot. I get along with him great, but you ever do a cover for him, you end up doing sometimes 8, 9, 10 sketches because he was like, "Nah, can you change this a little bit, And you're just like, "You're killing me, Brian." In fact, Terry Dodson quit doing covers on Wonder Woman because Brian was making him do so many sketches, and so then Brian called me, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I was like, I ended up doing like 18 sketches for one cover because they kept changing the story.
Wow.
And so I would do like 5 or 6, and then he'd go, "Okay, well, we're going to do this now." It's like, now I know why Terry quit.
Did you get paid for those 18?
No, I got paid $50, you know, for the cover sketch thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the thing is, like, it's pretty crazy back then because editors would just do these things.
Oh, yeah.
Like, most of the time you wouldn't even know it, and then you'd see it published or you get the original artwork back and you go, wait a minute, where's that? Where is this?
Well, it's the same thing with like you guys were saying about Carlin. I did a Superman Shazam one shot in 94 or 5, and he went through and did paste ups on like almost every figure at, you know, around the waist. I was drawing small waist because they're superheroes and stuff. But instead of calling me up, because I would have done it no problem. I mean, if he would have been like, "Hey, do this," I would have been like, "Okay," because I was inking it myself.
Right.
But instead, when I got the whole job back, there were paste ups everywhere, and I couldn't pull them up. I tried, but they started peeling up below, and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Once again, I want to say, I love Mike Carlin. Was one of the best editors I've ever worked. But Rob Liefeld, this is the notorious Hawk and Dove story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw both sides. I saw Mike's side because I was in New York when he was doing the editing on it, and I remember, you know, Rob every day he was drawing it because we were neighbors practically. So then I remember Rob just being heartbroken because what he did is, like, Eric Larson, I guess, took whatever the story, I forget what it was, but they go into like this different dimension or whatever, and then all the pages turn sideways. So everything's kind of centerfold looking. And so what was the Chaos Realm or whatever it is?
Was it during Crisis? Tie-in?
Because
I know the story you're talking about. I can't remember, but
I think it was a little after. But anyway, so Rob turned the book in like that. And so then Mike said, you didn't get approval, so I'm going to edit these pages. So Mike painstakingly changed, because you know it's not that easy to just kind of use the same panels and read.
The aspect ratio is off.
Yeah, exactly. And so Mike, those pages would probably be worth a fortune. Those ones that are all pasted up. I wonder who has those. But anyway, when they go into that Chaos Realm or whatever, all the pages go, instead of this way, they read like normal pages. And I just remember Rob was heartbroken. And I remember I was in the office with Mike, and what is his name? I forget his name now. But he was coming out of the office, and Hank Knaus. And so I imagine he asked Hank the same question he was about to ask me, because he asked me to come. He knew I was in New York at the time, so he asked me to come and talk to him. And so then he shows him all this stuff. He tells me what he did. He goes, "Do you think I'm a dick?"
For doing, asked you that?
And I go, well, I don't know. I know you broke Rob's heart, but there's no real diplomatic way to answer this question. So I don't think I answered it. But secretly, I was like, yeah, you made a lot of stress and you made a lot to do about nothing. It's it's one book, it's 1 month worth of entertainment. If somebody doesn't like it, they don't like it, you move on, But Mike just couldn't stand the idea of, I don't know. I don't really know what it was, if it was a power trip or if Mike genuinely thought it would read better the way it was.
I did. I mean, the way Rob kind of tells it too, it seems like he just didn't like Rob either. So I don't know.
Well, back then they were
might be some of it.
Yeah, they would grab anybody who was available to fix stuff, right? They weren't going to send it like with Andy's thing. It's like, hey, I told you guys a story about when I fixed that arm on the burn cover, right? Because I just happened to be there, and Terry Kavanaugh was like, I got to get this thing. I said, I can do that. Just give me a brush, and I fixed it. So. But the funniest story that happened to me was I had a panel. I did a What The Story, right? And there was this panel where this Silver Surfer's getting a ticket from a cop, right? And so he has his hand out like this. And it was just like the Silver Surfer's like, what are you doing to me? And the cop was standing there, but the hand was like, unfortunately, was really close to the guy's crotch, right?
Oh boy!
Turn and cough, officer.
Well, what happened was they ran a black and white of it, just like a little promo to send out to dealers, and some of them complained. They said, "What kind of crap are you guys producing?" Because a couple of the Silver Surfer's fingers had dropped out, and it looked like he was grabbing the guy by the nuts. So, but I happened to be in the studio, and Renee Whitterstar is like, Aaron, she goes, why did you do this? I go, that's not what I drew, And so I had to take the original artwork and I fixed it there in the studio, but someone else would have had to done it if I had not been there when that came. So I moved the arm up and everything. But I remember that, like, I didn't do anything. They were all mad at me because I was like, you think that's funny? And I'm like, what? What are you guys talking about?
Didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, Paul Taylor, $10. Thank you very much. The Legion has had some great artists on it: Cockram, Grell, and now Lepresti. You think you got hosed, Graham? I sold Hulk 181 for 5 cents because my mom nagged me to get rid of some of my comics. Oh,
bad move, Paul.
Well, hopefully you cut out the.
I could have bought Hulk 181 for $1. And I thought that was 4 times the cover price, and there's no way I'm buying that thing.
No way.
Another dumb move.
That's right. And real quick, let's see. Hold on.
This day, Nolan did something stupid.
Yeah,
that's right.
Mark there. I'm glad to be here, fellas.
Who are
Here
you?
we go, guys. Fixed it, you could say.
Yeah.
Edited it.
I wanted to fix it, but he's not in there though. I would have moved the Crime Masters over.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to go.
You have the
by all means, go right ahead.
Andy, do you have the goblin on another layer?
Oh no, I just wiped them totally out, but I can just do this.
So this is Amazing Spider-Man 26.
Yeah, hold on. Where's I can't even revert it. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, you can go over to the right-hand side there of your screen where you see those 4 squares with a little arrow. Yeah, click that. Now go to history.
Got
and then
that
scroll.
history.
And you can open it as it was.
Oh, that didn't do it.
Now just go up to the top of it where it says new. New.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So
now select the goblin.
What? Oh, you mean lasso him out or what?
Yeah. Select them.
Well, it's not going
Your
to be
Photoshop tutorial, folks.
So you guys doing it live, so I don't have to because I'm doing it too.
We'll see who's faster.
He's faster, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, and then go up to image.
Well, no, I was just going to take him out. But what do you want me to do?
Yeah. No, edit rather. I'm sorry, edit.
Yeah, you want me to cut him out, right?
No, I don't want you to cut him out. I want you to select him.
He is.
You selected.
Okay, yeah, I guess you could do it that way, and then make sure that the little the cross hatching, the little cross thing on the upper left hand side of the toolbox is selected. No. You know what? Go to transform. Free transform.
It's more than meets the eye.
Yep.
There you go. Click that. Okay. All right. Now grab a corner or and spin him a little bit.
Oh, I see you. Oh, okay.
That's it. No, the other way.
Yeah, Graham
then-
doesn't like that he's straight up.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
but now
drag
we
him
gotta
over
reduce him.
towards. Yeah, make him smaller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, that's not bad.
Yeah, see,
Now
that's a
he's
lot
coming
better.
in.
Now the angle makes it pop a little bit more. It is not so vertical, just like the buildings that were underneath him are all vertical, and Spider-Man is relatively vertical. You know.
Yeah, well, now there's more
These
motion to him
angles.
as he's coming in too. You know. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, cool. There you go, guys. Look at that.
I'm almost done with my
The magic of
Hey, what's
digital art.
the hey guys? What's the topic today? What's the question?
It is. Will today's comic art ever match the Pricy past? And now,
No.
don't ruin this for Billy.
Right.
I'm going to ask him what he thinks. That the page that kind of brought this all up sold for. So hold on,
Okay,
let me
let's
pull it
see.
back up and see what he thinks. Oh, my
While
God,
we're
where'd it
waiting,
go?
Billy, can you show us the ribbon you got tonight for your award?
We just had I told you the second Tuesday of the month is my American Legion meeting. I'm the vice commander of the post, and we have the National Commanders dinner in New York City this Friday night. So it was a big deal.
All right, Billy, what do you think this sold for?
That piece right there. Hang on a second. That looks like Frank Miller.
It is.
Frank Miller.
Okay. And is it Frank and Klaus? No,
it's
No,
Frank and
definitely
Joe
not.
Rubenstein, and
No,
it was
Frank-
not. It was not for Marvel. It was for a different company that published the Daredevil Index, and it's a wraparound cover.
Now, was this done around the time that Joe was working with Frank on the Wolverine miniseries?
No, I think this
No.
was done. I don't know the year, but I mean,
It was like 83. This was done when Frank was just finishing up his run on Daredevil.
Okay. Now this now is this an 11 by 17 page on one 11 by 17 sheet? Is it
that's a very good question.
Billy, you're
page?
just
Is it three
stalling. You're
hardboard?
just stalling.
Yeah,
Give us a
seriously.
number.
I'd say $40,000.
Wow,
Well,
are
my
you
friend-
wrong?
It sold for $180,000.
But I have my article here. I would have.
Wow.
Holy shit!
Oh.
Yep.
And did Joe own it or Frank own it or did somebody else?
No,
own it?
Joe said that, and I don't know if he was just throwing it out there, but he said, just imagine Frank might have sold this for $200. So maybe he knows Frank sold it for that, or he was just saying back then that's what Frank might have sold it for. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
You know what? You know what
What is
really
this? Wait a
sucks?
minute. Hang on. I'm sorry. Jay Lee just posed. Oh, on She, I was in a bidding war for the Mark Silvestri She cover, and he lost a bid. It sold for $25,000
wow.
for
That's
Silvestri She cover.
Wow.
All right, where's my pistol?
It's over for Billy.
I'm selling my covers for like $2,400 and happy about it. Like 25 grand.
Hey, I want to ask you guys, what do you think it would be a good investment to buy some of our old artwork back? I know it's a lot more money, but in hopes that it would be worth more money down the
Depends
line.
on what it is. I really think, Art, I think it's character driven.
It sold for $28,500, Billy. Sorry.
Holy crap! I got to tell Debbie that.
Are you
like
sure
I
you
had,
want
hey,
to?
somebody put up my one of my Sludge covers. It was a Frankenstein cover, and it was like I saw it up there and I go, I'm gonna bid on this and get this cover back, and it sold for like $250 or $300. It was really ridiculous, and just recently it was
How
really
much did it sell
ridiculous.
for?
Like $300.
You should have bought
Oh,
it.
wow.
Oh, well, I forgot about it. Like
Graham,
it's
Graham
like,
sold one of his Batman covers and bought his whole hometown with it, with the money.
yeah, I know. Well, yeah, Sludge is a far cry from Batman, but my point is, an art dealer bought it and now is selling it for like I think 12 or 1500. So now I don't want to buy it as badly.
You could have made money off of
I
it.
know, I'm just ticked off at it, but
Okay, so
uh-oh.
what do you think this cover sold for? This is Gil Kane.
Inked by.
That's a good question. I'm
Can you blow it up?
looking.
That is first appearance of Spider-Woman.
Well, once again, I
So-
spend more than 10 grand on it.
and this is
Well,
70s.
that looks like
78.
Ramita on the face there.
It does
It
look like
does,
Ramita, doesn't it? Well, he could have gone in there and doctored it up. He was certainly something he
Yeah,
did.
let's see.
quite
Let's see
frequently.
Fury's face. No, that's not Ramita inks
That's
on
not
her hair.
Ramita. No, that's Gil. It almost looks like.
Yeah, looks like Giordano.
I was going to say it looks like Giordano.
Yeah, that doesn't look like Kane. Yeah.
Well, you know, Marcus Killigrew will let us know.
Oh,
But-
it's Kane pencils, but that looks like Giordano inks there.
This cover had to go for $250,000. First appearance of Spider-Woman, Gil Kane. I'm saying
Yeah.
250.
Is that
Grant?
first appearance?
Yeah, this is the very first appearance of Spider-Woman.
Okay. You're saying 250?
I'm saying 250.
Marcus says it was Steve Leahola or whatever.
Huh? How about that?
The Hawaiian.
Yeah.
That's weird because it really does look like Dick Giordano and like this hand and even the face and stuff.
And that hair too.
Yeah.
That hair is nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I will say first appearance. What year is this?
78, probably. 37.
Yeah, it doesn't say on it.
77 or 78.
Yeah, and this is one that just sold this week. Andy?
Yep, April 4th. Yep.
I'll go. And what the Hulk one go for?
168.
160, 70, 170 basically.
All right, I'll go. Jeez, I'll go 225.
Art.
I suck at this because I can't even go to the price that it probably is worth because I would
I'll give you 500 for it. Now get off my lawn.
Yeah, Art, don't go with what you would buy it
You know
for.
what? I'm saying 150. 150. I'm gonna go high.
All right, Tooch.
I'm gonna go lower. Actually, I'm gonna go $84,000.
No,
I
you're
played
crazy.
that game, Billy. It doesn't work.
All right, so let me see. So real quick, Billy says 84. Art says 150. That's 234. What did you say, Aaron?
250.
So let's just say that's 500. What did you say?
225.
So that's 7 something.
750.
Well, you're all wrong, but if you add them up, it's close. It went for 690.
What?
Oh my God.
Over $500,000.
Wait a minute. $600,000?
It's actually right here in the corner. See? I don't know if you can see that because it's so
Oh,
small.
yeah.
but
Art is like racing back to his
That's like
website.
$700,000 practically.
You know what? I'm gonna
$700,000.
start doing these tribute covers, and I'm going to knock off all these covers, and I'm going to sell them at a fraction of the cost.
What do you think? What do you think that Zek Captain America versus Wolverine cover? The original.
Oh my!
What do you think that goes for?
Hold on real quick. Robert the Bruce for $4.99. Thank you. Will people pay big money for heroes having Starbucks talking about life's problems? I think not. Give me the fantastical worlds. That's what I'm talking about. Like the original art these days, the writers are effing some artists that are still working traditionally because the shit is so damn boring.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a Captain America book, if the dude's sitting. And here's the other thing, too, guys. Remember when we were growing up in this time period? Hold on. Remember when we were growing up in this time period? And I always said this. The thing I loved about comics in the 70s and 80s is you'd look at an issue of Avengers and they were just sitting around talking about whatever, but they were all in costume.
Yep.
Because of the movies, now they're all sitting around talking about bullshit, but Cap's in a t-shirt and jeans, Iron Man's in a suit. They're all in plain clothes. Who gives an F? Right? Yeah. How can you sell that?
Because some writer was like, this is impractical. They probably wouldn't have their costumes on all the time. So when they're just lounging around the Justice League satellite, they would just have their street clothes on.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Paul Taylor, do you guys know what your most valuable pieces of art are? If not, you should do a show on that. It would be really interesting to show all the different stuff you've done. So Paul, I'm gathering you're talking about our art, not the stuff we collect, but like we would have to look at something we did if we still have it and go, well, I guess this piece that I love and I kept is worth X. Is that what you mean?
Well, I've got some couple of splash pages from Planet Hulk and a couple of panel pages that are really good from Planet Hulk that I'm sitting on. And I sold everything else, but I'm just curious to see if that's ever going to, become one of those things that, oh my gosh, that splash page got 25 grand or something. So if I live long enough, we'll see if it happens.
Well, I
As
kept
soon as someone takes something I sold to them for like $500 and sells it for 25 grand, man, mine are going up for auction the next day.
I kept some primo stuff.
I'll tell you, I can show you my most valuable piece. It's right in there.
Oh,
well, your Bane.
Let me see this.
Imagine, right?
Oh, Craig 69. Hi, Andy and Billy. Still all a high from getting to meet you guys at South Carolina Comic-Con. Thanks for giving me the time. Woo! You're welcome, Craig.
Nice.
I was going to say I've got some pages I inked over Jim Starlin from those Thanos graphic novels and stuff. I basically kept 4 or 5 pages from each one, a couple spreads and stuff. But I tell you what, a lot of the pages I did sell from my cut, I was selling those pages for upwards of like $700 to $1,000, and I've seen some of them on the resale market now for like double, triple that. And I'm just like, so
you never know. You never
just share my screen.
You got it. Add before remove other media. All right. Geez, what a pain in the ass.
I know.
There you go.
That's my most valuable piece. It's probably one of the most reprinted pages, other than the Breaking of the Bat from Nightfall and of Batman in the last 40 years, something like that. It's been used.
That's got to be worth over $100,000.
I was going to say that other one was 90.
Yeah, you could buy the town next to your town now.
But Billy, I live in New York, so once he takes the taxes out, I could buy a used car.
Maybe, maybe
with 100,000 miles on it.
Yeah. So you still have this? This is hanging in your office?
It's hanging right there.
Yep. Yeah, baby.
Nice. What's your address again, Grant? Oh no, you got a flamethrower. Got it.
No, he doesn't have a flamethrower.
Burn your ass to the ground.
I got guns.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great page.
Yeah, I debated on whether to put that up into the auction when I was auctioning off stuff. And I decided, no, I'm going to hold on to this piece. This could be a retirement piece someday.
You're going to sell that at the CG auction, right?
$20 confirmed.
Confirmed.
I know Aaron asked this. Do you think this would have went for 200 or more?
Maybe. Based on what his other stuff got?
That's what I'm saying, yeah. But the other page that went for 90 you show was the first appearance of him in costume, right? Bane in costume? Or
yeah.
Well, this is though pretty iconic. This is I would think this is like 150 at least, based on the other one.
Yeah, at least. 90. Yeah, it's your retirement right there in that piece of artwork.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love this because I'm sure he's right, because I frame my stuff the same way. He goes, wait, is it framed in one of those $6 Walmart frames? It looks like it.
No, this is professionally framed with free board and UV protective glass.
Yeah, you should have doubled
that would be awesome. $100,000 piece that's framed in like a Walmart.
Right. I've got framed in here is in like those cheap Walmart frames, but none of them are in sunlight.
When you give it to Heritage for auction, you have to take it out of the frame and send them just the artwork.
Yeah,
right.
They don't want the frames.
No.
In fact, the other one that I sold, I took the artwork out and I stuck a Monster Island cover in it and hung it back up on the wall.
Oh
yeah. Well, if you share my screen, Andy, there's mine.
So here, you want to? Oh, what's that art? Are you sharing something?
Sure, I got one.
All right, let me remove that and. Oh yeah, what that sell for?
Ooh.
The thing is, like,
Dude, I saw that in Wizard Magazine. I think I have a trading card of that.
Yeah, it got around, but I think it says it's 9,500. So
you don't own this?
No, I wish I did. Yeah. So
Ooh, that hurts.
so yeah, I think it's the highest expense of a piece of artwork that I did completely. So this is my pencils and inks. So yeah, there's little Hack Shack Studios billboard down here. So that's what it says here. So how long ago was this? Oh, they have dates here. Look at that face. Look at that face.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't say the date, but yeah. So 9,000. Let's get it to 10. Come on. Let's go.
Well, you want to see something that's going to kill you. So remember that cover I showed you was $690. The Spider Woman. This will really make you go, you got to be kidding me.
Who's got $690?
This sold for $528 on the same day.
What?
So 170 less.
And it's a painting by Frank.
It's a Frazetta painting.
So is the Frazetta prices going down?
No, it's
I
not
don't know.
one of his best pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the Egyptian Queen sold for like 3.4 million or something.
Okay.
And that was a few years ago. So it might have been more than that. Someone correct me. It might have been like 5 million. It was a lot.
What did this go for?
528.
528,000?
Yeah.
Wow. So
first
we should put
on Heritage. We should load the two up on Heritage. Can we do that? Can you submit your own work to Heritage?
Sure. Well, I would think that they would either say we want it or we don't, but I guess you could contact them and go, hey, I got stuff.
They sell a lot of crap on Heritage. They'd take any of our stuff.
Wait a minute.
Hold on.
Yeah, I included myself in there.
Hey, real quick, look at the colors. I don't think I can blow this up anymore. Let me see. Oh, I can. Oh, that's as big as it goes. Look at like the knee where it's just like this green and blues, and then look at the arm and stuff. Just the color he threw in there.
And you know why? Because there's that green splotch right there. I always liked this cover because I always thought it's kind of strange. There's just like that green shows up.
But see, that's classical painting. If you look at any of the great illustrators too, not just we're not talking Rembrandts and stuff. Look at Howard Pyle and NC Wyeth and stuff. When they do a flesh tone, it's just not varying shades of burnt sienna and yellow ochre and flesh color. There's purples and greens and oranges and
that gives it life.
The thing is, when you're painting, you're supposed to use color because like blues and greens and stuff with other pigments will turn into the flesh color. You know what I mean? They'll turn into a brown or a gray. Right. And that's what you want because there's always going to be more life to a color mix than actually using a brown or a gray. Actually, it's looked down upon to use a brown or a gray straight.
But what's interesting to me about this, and I don't know a lot about Frazetta's painting technique, but I don't know how much mixing he did on the side because a lot of this looks like he was just grabbing color and just dabbing it down on top,
Well, if this is oil, you can mix.
Oh yeah,
on the
it
can.
is oil, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's oil. Yeah.
I always thought this was a creepy cover. It just disgusted me. The spider bug legs coming up, trying to envelop him, and he's jamming that kind of weak looking staff,
wood rod or whatever.
And it's bent, so it's not all that strong.
Kind of sexual.
Okay.
He's stabbing his rod into that.
Yeah, it's like dating in the 80s,
That's how you have sex with a bug creature.
Oh my God. Jeez Louise.
Well, Andy, you thought it. I just had to say
I did. Well, here, instead of playing guessing games, if you guys can see these thumbnails good enough to go blow that up, I want to know what it sold for.
Oh, that Herb Trimpe Hulk.
Okay, that sold for $336,000.
Wow.
Oh my
God. Wow.
John Severn inks.
Oh yeah, that's
Dr.
a great
Doom
one
on the
with
cover.
Dr. Doom cover. Yeah.
You know what makes me sick is that guy probably never saw that kind of loot in his day.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
Oh no, neither.
guy-
of
You know
these
what
did.
really sucks about this, and as I sold some of those pieces high, is that there's, unlike in the fine arts, there's no provenance. Barry Windsor Smith and some of those guys in England, when they sell art, they have a contract with provenance in it, so that if it's sold again, the difference in that profit, the original artist always gets a share every time it's sold.
Yep.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's what somebody
it
in
honors
that,
the artist.
somebody in the comments on the Frank Miller piece that I showed that started this whole thing said that over in Europe, the guys get a cut. It just goes, whenever
You know
it's
what? If that was the case, I could own a small village here in the woodlands.
Right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, Barry. I knew that years ago that Barry Smith would, like, anytime you bought an original from him, even if you sold it here in the States, he would make you sign this contract that if you sold it again, then you would owe a percentage of whatever the sale was back to him.
Their
the
taxes
thing is,
suck,
how do you
but-
collect it?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to trust some of these scumbags, to pay out, part of their profits to you.
Well, you would have to be alert enough to see if it's got sold, right? And somehow be able to track it. Because if you could track it, you could sue them for breaching the contract if they signed it, but you'd have to know that they actually sold it. That would be the tricky.
And you would also that person that bought it would have to know that was the deal too.
Right.
That would be really tough to prove. And there's nothing in it for the government, so they're not going to enforce it.
Yeah.
But look at this.
Look at that beautiful Tom Yates.
Wow.
This
cover
for a lot. I know it.
192,000.
Wow.
That's all?
Damn, that was a good auction, man. Damn. Should have threw something in there.
I don't know. 192 for it. This is Yates, right? No.
Yeah, it's Yates, but it's like basically a silhouette of the Swamp Thing, not even the focus of the cover.
Well,
I don't know.
A classic cover, but it's was this the first issue by what's his face? The
Alan Moore?
It's
Alan Moore.
21. I don't know.
I think it was. So
The logo changed, right, to the Saga of that was during Alan's run, right?
Yeah, this is the first issue, because the original one went to 20, and so this is the first one with Alan Moore. I'm almost positive, and so I'm sure that's the significance of it. But still,
yeah, because I don't think
because this was 80s, right? When the 80s?
Yeah, this is 84. This is 84.
Yeah,
did Yates draw the first issue by Alan Moore? I thought Bissett drew the first issue by Alan Moore.
Well, one of them
came in later, I thought.
Oh wait, here we go. Sequential Treasure says this is the second Alan Moore, but this issue reveals Swamp Thing's new origins.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
But Stan Walk did a few early on too. He was the guy that drew Airboy, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a former QB. He was in school same time as Tom Yates, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
He's good.
Yes.
Look, I'll be honest. I love these Tom Yates issues of Swamp Thing. I bought a lot of them when I was a kid. I only have a few.
He's better than Tottlebone and Bissett, I think.
So do I.
Yates is better than Bissett and Tottlebone by a mile.
They were very stylized, and they got into like all the vines and the flowers and all the textures. But
all the noodly shit that fans like.
Right.
Right, but the drawing itself wasn't that great.
It wasn't that great, yeah.
No.
So Billy,
yeah.
Who do you think drew this cover? Well, you can probably read it, so never mind.
I can't read it. Let me see.
Paul Lynde.
Oh, I know who drew that cover.
Who?
The great Al Milgrom.
Nope. Al Milgrom inked it.
Damn it. I just saw the name. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
John Romita Jr.
Johnny Jr. drew that? Is that
1980?
on your face? Let me see.
And do you want to know what it sold for?
How much?
168,000.
Wow.
Yep.
They just signed that too recently. Look, Al Milgrom, is that 24? John,
It looks like a 2400 JR signature. Yeah.
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 Usually these bros, I feel good while we're doing it. I'm just feeling really
Yeah, I know.
horrible right
Art's
now.
going. I'm just feeling sick right now.
Well, think about it. Like if there was providence on that, right? And let's say JR sold that thing to the first buyer, and he sold it for $1,000, and now that buyer puts it up on auction, and he sells it for $180,000, right?
Mhm.
Right. So that's a $170,000 profit. Now with the providence, if he got say 3% of $170,000, let's round it off to 5%, right? So that would be 17. It'd be $8,000
Yeah.
in his pocket from that sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel any better, Graham. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Barry Windsor Smith,
Oh, that's pretty cheap for that cover, I would think. Look at that.
66K.
66,000.
That
Wow.
seems
For a
like,
painting cover.
Oh, yeah.
but I guess there's no.
Is that from the
there's no-
Conan saga? The
Yeah.
Yeah.
those
That's a
magazines.
great
Look
investment,
at
I
his
think.
look at his loins are all girded up there. You'd think it would.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah, because that's a watercolor, you'd think maybe it would have gone for more than that, but
I would have thought so.
Yeah.
For
Good
sure.
Well, out of all these
Whoever
pieces,
picked it up.
you could probably frame this sucker.
but this might be exactly what Graham was talking about. The farther we get removed from Barry Smith and guys like that, there's less people that remember him and care about it.
Yep.
And so now your price maybe isn't as much as it would have been, say, 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what do you think about this theory with Barry Smith Conan? His early Conan stuff, like the first. Well, I mean, he only did 20 some issues anyhow. So
Yeah,
any of that
24,
stuff,
20.
which
Mhm.
wasn't as refined as this is,
Right.
like say the first 5-6 issues, right?
Mhm.
I bet that original art would probably sell for more than this.
Oh,
it
way
was
more.
Oh, yeah, it definitely would.
right. But it's not as well drawn and stuff, So,
I
like to
know.
me, I'd rather have this than a page from like Conan 1 or 2 or 3.
Yeah, I would too.
Oh,
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
the nostalgia that's driving that price too. Like,
Right.
who's the big art deal? Albert Moy had interior pages that I just looked at them in San Diego this last year, and they were the panel pages. I want to say they were like between $8 and $10 grand a piece for Barry Smith Conan panel pages from the
Right.
original series.
Mm.
Wow.
And those are just panel pages.
But I just wonder
they
if
have a
those
red
pages, I wonder if those pages, though, kind of like what Art was saying about, where somebody sees it for sale, if those pages were at Heritage on auction, if they'd go for more than that,
Probably.
Yeah,
Very possible.
because of the perception. It's Heritage, it's at auction, But yeah, I love this. This is
now-
one I might actually download because
Albert Moy, of course, is notorious for having high prices, but he's also notorious for having all the great stuff, so he can charge whatever he wants for it.
Right,
But
right.
he had a Neil Adams painting from that that 70s magazine that's Atlas Comics did. When what's his face sold Marvel.
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
They had like Bizarre Adventures or something a magazine like that, kind of a Savage Tales type magazine. And he had this cover that was like I think it was probably it was either the first or second issue. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But it was Neil Adams, pen and ink, then painted by Neil, with watercolor like he did the Tarzan covers.
Mhm.
$150,000
wow.
was what he was asking for it.
So do you guys think inflation is playing a factor in these prices for this stuff?
Yeah, to a certain degree, but
I don't think it's a huge. I don't
Yeah.
think it's a huge factor though.
no. If you type
don't
in
know.
like, if you type into like a inflation calculator for, like I said, take the Wrightson thing for like $300 that he sold those,
Right.
and they do it now, it'd probably be like $1,500, but they're going for 100 and
Right.
That is
200,000.
interesting that like artwork or collectibles like this aren't really they're not really touched by inflation.
Right.
what
I
I mean?
agree.
Basically, the collector and the seller are the ones that determine the value, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
What you're willing to sell it for and what you're willing to buy it for. and that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, collectors markets, art markets are really inflation proof. They, the right buyer will pay whatever it is worth to him, no matter what. If it was during the Great Depression, and some guy saw a Picasso and he had to have it, he'd buy it.
Yeah.
I have to ask you guys. Go ahead.
That what separates comic art fans from, say, trading cards, like baseball cards and stuff like, sports memorabilia, is that these people are all fans. Comic art. The people that buy in comic art more so are fans than investors, unless, say, it's something super iconic, like the Amazing Fantasy 15 or something like that cover. If that would go up to sale, right? When you say, or like, we were trying to remember, Liefeld was selling something for a crazy amount of money, the first Deadpool piece of art, remember? And
he wasn't selling it. It was heritage, but he didn't own it.
Yeah, the other person was selling it because he was trying to get the movie people or Ryan Reynolds to get a tax write-off or something like that.
Well, at a friendship, I gave Rob a bunch of those pages I inked from him. You owe me. But I want to, before we go any further, Walter Simonson. Oh, is this tacky if we actually speculate what his? Because he's sitting on all that artwork.
I thought about that art, and here's the interesting thing: if it depends on what he does with it. If it all floods the market at the same time, right? But if I don't know what his plans are. If he's going to maybe sell it a little bit at a time, or if he's going to donate it to a museum, or what he's going to do with it. But if a few pieces trickled out, they'd be sky high. Right. But if all of it flooded the market at one time, probably, it'd still get some money, but
that's like
the same kind of money, I don't think.
So going back to that Al Milgrom, John Romita Jr. cover, I don't know if that was Al's piece, but I talked to Al, it was a few years ago at Heroes Con, and he kept a ton of his art that he inked, and then obviously the stuff he drew as well. And I asked him, I said, so what have you been up to, blah, blah, blah. And that's what he does. Al trickles the stuff out, and he's like, I go on vacations, I take my family, out on vacations and stuff and travel, and he's just putting the stuff out, here and there. So I wouldn't be surprised if that cover, the Hulk cover, was his that he put out.
Well, that's and then important thing is that the how productive was the artist, right? Simonson, he did a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
Other guys didn't do that much work, so there's not as much available. Even if it was all in the market, there's not that much available.
I have a question. Do you think, like someone like Walter, who's iconic, he's in his 70s, do you think someone like Walt's art, as opposed to, say, some young guy like Sean Murphy, right?
Right.
Is the art worth more? Like Frazetta's gone. So is Frazetta's art worth more that he's gone, or would it be worth more while you're alive?
It depends on the art. Graham nailed it when he said the farther we get away from these guys, the less in demand their work is, because the next generation is now grew up on 90s books or on 2000 books. They didn't grow up in 80s books or 70s books. So that stuff's going to diminish because less people are going to be interested.
Right.
Now there's going to be like Thor, like Simonson's first Thor issue, right? Like that splash page of Beta Ray, that's always going to be worth a fortune if it ever gets out onto the market. But some of his other, maybe like some rando Fantastic Four page that he did, probably not going to have that kind of value.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
agree.
that's
I
true.
think Walt's better than he's ever been at 70 some odd years old. The work he's turning out today is just absolutely stunning. But it's not mainstream stuff. So young people, aren't really discovering Walt Simonson, but they know Walt from, if they know him, they know at all, it's from the stuff he did at Marvel. And that's true for a lot of us, is if you've made a name there, that you can carry over with you a little bit. But, if you're not still in that game all this time, you're forgotten. And as those people grow and get older, and eventually get out of buying original art, that's it. The value of that stuff, except for super key things like you said, Beta Ray Bill, that'll still hold itself. But like you said, a rando FF page, or the Metalman done, or New Gods, I just don't
well, I mean, John Byrne's the perfect example of that. His X-Men pages go through the roof. His Fantastic Four sell for less. Alpha Flight, they don't sell anywhere near as much as those X-Men.
Right.
And then stuff he did in the 90s doesn't come close to it.
Right.
Well,
there's only a few artists, Frazetta, of course, being one of them, Wrightson being another, that it doesn't matter what they drew, they're buying it because of that artist.
Right.
But again, those guys were not overly prolific either.
Right.
And so there's not a ton of that stuff out there. I mean, you look at Wrightson. Wrightson's great. His sweet spot was between 1972 and 1980, and the work he completed. And that's the stuff that gets the big bucks, because that's when he was at his best. But there's not that much of that stuff out there. But all of it is through the roof. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember when John Buscema stuff. You could get John Buscema pages for $50, back in the 80s, because John was so prolific. He was turning out stuff all the time because he was doing breakdowns and layouts and all that. But he was constantly, there's so much stuff. I mean, I went to Chicago Con. There was a stack of Buscema pages. They were like $25-$30 a pop, and I was going through them, and I pulled out 3 or 4 of them. I should have bought the whole damn stack.
I know. I did the same thing.
Because a lot of his stuff now is because now that he's gone, people are discovering it, and obviously certain things are of more value than others. You get a Silver Surfer page, I'll bet you it's pretty damn expensive.
There's a funny story about Mike McCone was selling all of his, I think, Stormwatch pages, right? Stack of them, on his desk for $10 a page, right? Penciled inks, and there was Anthony Snyder, Anthony Snyder.
Oh yeah.
So Anthony's going through them all like this, and he says, like, so would you consider $7 a page?
No way.
What fucking $10 a page isn't low enough?
That's like being in a garage sale.
Who did he say that to?
Anthony Snyder, to Mike McCone.
Oh, McCone.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's so funny.
I like Anthony. I like him a lot, but holy shit. He's like, you take 7? And he's like,
dude, it's like you go to a garage sale, right? And the cigarette, the ashtray is 50 cents. You go, will you take 25 cents for it?
Yeah. Just pay the 50.
But that's what people do,
I know. Or they'll say, if I buy all of it, how about $20 for the entire bag of action figures?
Right.
Meanwhile, you got the first Luke Skywalker in there, and he doesn't want to have to rifle through it.
Right. All right, guys.
It's not a yard sale, people. It's not a yard sale. It's original artwork.
We are coming to the end of the show. Everybody keep in mind, we all have stuff going on. Links for everybody's live campaigns, because I'm the only one without a live campaign, are in the description below. I do have a sign-up page for Lilineth Infernal Conflict. So go check that out. Sign up for it. And debuting right now, real quick. Let's see, where is it? Media.
Looking forward to this one, by the way, Andrew.
Here's the actual main cover for it.
Wow.
By myself. And there she is, battling one of the new demons from the abyss, where the story takes place.
Balls.
That's armor. Nice design in that guy's armor. I like that.
Well, I think
cool looking.
Who colored this, Andy?
Who colored it? Well, his screen name on X is Tartan Ninja.
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he'll be coloring the book as well. And he's a cool guy, good to work with. And so this is what you have. That's the main cover for it. And of course,
that logo is great, and it's going to make awesome t-shirts. You do such metal stuff, man. If you're into metal, you got to buy this. I mean, the logo with that picture on a t-shirt, dude, that's it.
That's all right
There
there.
you go. Well, thank you. So yeah, go sign up. Link is pinned to the top of the chat, and everybody has a description. And one more time, there's the hellish cover because it takes place in the stormy abyss. So
Yes.
And remember, guys, it doesn't cost you a dime to sign up, but usually there's perks involved with the sign up. So even if you're thinking, I might not, do it anyway because you never know. And if you do, then you'll be eligible for those cool collectibles. If not, you don't get them. You don't get them.
That's it.
there you go. Yeah, that's it. There you go. Tart Ninja. He does do great work. So he's coloring something else for me too, which I'll talk about later.
Cool.
I know it's a tease. It's a tease. It's part of the campaign though.
Nice.
So as an add-on. So
That's what Andy does. That's why he's successful with the women.
Yeah.
He knows how.
Randy Howell wants to know when's the launch.
It's going to be sometime around the end of May, beginning of June. So I got to get some pages done for it because I like to, like all of us, show pages on the campaign as well. And I got to get to work on those. Once we're done doing fulfillment, we got, how many more? We got out about 15 more packages today because now we're into just sending out the big boxes that have the collector's box and the figures and all that stuff. So
Right.
taking more time to put those together, but we got about 15 out. We're up to about what, 730 packages out now. So
excellent, buddy.
it is going. So there you go, guys. Next week it is on Mr. Taber's channel. That guy right there.
Yeah, something to look forward to. We're gonna do Euro Trash, so we're gonna spotlight some of our favorite European artists. I wanted to call it something else. I'm not gonna say, but Graham convinced me not to. So I think Euro Trash will be cool. We're all gonna have our hair slicked back. We're not gonna take a shower for a week in celebration.
Smoking cigarettes. Let's do
Wait a minute. I'm already doing that.
I know. I'm like,
My
wait a
monkey. You touch my monkey.
I
I gotta get a cigarette and I'll be
That's
ready.
right.
We all gotta wear turtlenecks. We all gotta wear
Yeah,
turtlenecks.
black turtlenecks.
Yeah.
Well, some people it's still cold enough to do that. I know Graham, you're not near Syracuse, but I saw snow in Syracuse today.
Wow.
Wow.
It's cold
Did it
today by
stick?
me too.
Yeah, it's stuck. Joe Jusko posted
Yeah.
a video.
We had snow
lot
come
of-
down last night, but it didn't stick. It was big fat stuff, and it was coming down, but it didn't stick.
Oh no, what Joe posted looked like, I mean, it looked like a couple inches, but it was all white. I mean, I was like, oh my God, it's April. That's why I moved away from there.
People make fun of Buffalo, but they don't know that Syracuse is actually the snow capital.
It is, yeah. All right, guys, we'll catch you guys later. Thanks for joining. Graybeards tomorrow, DNA show at 3:00, and there
The
you
landing
go.
party.
Landing party. Art, are you doing Pontificators tomorrow night?
Pontificators tomorrow, yes, 8:00
Thursday
Eastern
night.
Standard.
And I'm doing Thursday Night Live Thursday.
There you go. A show every day. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.